Hello and welcome to another Improve Your Chess video. So in this series I talk a lot about how you can get better at chess, and I do that by going over games that I played against a good friend of mine. He is, I would say at a beginner level. He's been playing chess off and on for a long time, but he's still learning all of the strategies and tactics and everything. So, follow along with this game, and I will show you how you can get better at chess by explaining what is happening in the game, and what you should and shouldn't do in your own games. So, in this game, it looks like I played at 94.3% accuracy versus his 81.3. I even had a brilliant move. We'll see how brilliant it is. I think the computer exaggerates sometimes. So, one great move. And it looks like no inaccuracies, mistakes, misses, or blunders, which is easier to do when your opponent makes a mistake and then you can capitalize on those mistakes. Then it's easier to find the moves to play. The difficult games are when the games are dead even and nobody's making headway. So then it's harder to get a 94% accuracy rating on those games. But here we have, my opponent had 4 inaccuracies and 1 blunder. So we'll take a look at those. All right, let's put on the computer analysis and take a look. So E4 was played. And, I've been playing different openings against John. He responds with E5. So this is a good way for beginners to start out, especially because E4, E5 openings tend to open the game up. And what I mean by that, the pawns are usually more often exchanged in the center, and there's more room for the pieces to maneuver and more tactical possibilities. And that is one way to really get better at chess is, if you don't like solving tactical problems, then it's kind of tough, but, you should probably try and solve tactics, do some puzzles or some kind of tactical problems every day, at least for a few minutes, if not 15 to 30 minutes if you have the time. And that can definitely help you get better at chess as you see more patterns and get better with tactics. Now, the game continues with knight to f3, and John responds with knight to c6. So everything is good so far. To get better at chess, you definitely want to control the center of the board by placing pawns in the center and placing pieces where they attack the center here. So we see this knight is attacking the pawn. It's also covering this d4 square. And now I develop the bishop attacking the knight, which is covering this pawn. But also this move allows me to castle. And another way to get better at chess and win more games is to castle quickly. Some people might think, well, what if my king gets stuck in the corner? Well, I've mentioned this before. It's better to castle your king into the corner where it can only be attacked from 2 different directions. If you leave the king in the center, it can be attacked head on from the left or the right. But once you castle, it can only be attacked straight on or from one side. Nothing can come from off the board on the other side. So John plays an interesting variation. This opening is called the Ruy Lopez opening, and an interesting response here, the bird's defense, which is named after a chess master from the past. So the bird defense, you bring this knight forward attacking the bishop, but because this knight is doing a good job of covering the center, I can go ahead and capture this knight. I don't want to take this pawn, or he'll just capture my bishop. So I have to take his knight. And one way to get better at chess is to generally don't move your pieces twice in the opening unless you have to. So here I'm forced to do that. But generally, maybe a little better move instead of jumping the knight here to d4, which is still an okay move. It's a book variation. But it might have been better to either chase my bishop or develop the other knight. So in chess, if you want to get better at chess, you have to develop all your pieces quickly, especially the knights and the bishops. Usually the knights first because they're slower. And by developing the knights first, it gives you time to see where it will be best to place the bishops. All right, so I capture, then a recapture to keep material even. And you don't want to give up material because sometimes if you can't get to the king, you can just grab extra material and win the game like that. So here we have castling. So as I mentioned, get your king castled to safety quickly, and that also allows the rook to come out and have more control, maybe line up on your opponent's king here. So c6 is played, which is a book move. This basically chases my bishop away. So that's another way you can get better at chess, is to attack your opponent. And now I have to waste time retreating, but I did retreat to the center here. That way I can help cover this d5 square with my pawn here. And I'm aimed at this f7 square. This pawn here is only protected by the king. So we'll show you how this can be a weakness that you must always watch out for, because the only thing protecting this is the king. And if pieces pile up on that, it can cause you problems, as we'll see here in this game. This is a blunder. So you can pause if you want and see why this is a blunder move. White has a couple different options here, but one of them is best. So what would you play in this position if it was your turn? Why is this a blunder? Well, as I mentioned, this pawn is under attack here. And this is where tactics come into play. Study tactics as much as you can, and you'll start to recognize patterns like this one. So the best move here is to capture, and the computer awards this a brilliant move. It's a good move. I don't know if I would say it's brilliant, but it attacks the king, taking advantage of this weak pawn, and now I'm behind in material, but there's a follow-up move. Now my queen can jump up here, and the computer says this is a great move, and now I can check and then fork the king and the bishop. So that's something that you have to watch out for. Check, king moves. And my opponent was very brave here, moving his king into the center here. It looks like g6 attacking the queen and blocking would have been a little bit better. But now I pick off the bishop, and the game continues with the queen developing. This is the best move, and protecting this pawn. But at this point, white is ahead here by the equivalent of 3 1/3 pawns. So, white is almost winning here already, and that's because the king is stuck out in the open. There's this weak pawn here. Let's see how the game continues. I play the best move, d3, fortifying my central pawn, but more importantly, allowing my bishop to develop in the future. And now the best move in response by my opponent, d6, attacking my queen. So I check, and this is not the best move. Apparently moving all the way back to a3 would have been better, because now my opponent plays the best move, retreating back behind these pawns, and possibly getting ready to push this pawn and chase my queen. So I develop a knight, although f4 would have been better, giving my rook more scope, helping control the center with the f4 pawn move. So that would have been a little bit better. But here I'm trying to get some pieces developed. So an attack on my queen, the best move. Queen to b3 is best. And now the king swings over here. An excellent move, but a5 would have been better. Just continuing the attack here on the queen side. So I try to break things open by attacking this pawn, trying to knock out this defensive pawn cover of my opponent. So that's another way you can get better at chess, is try and knock out the pieces that are defending your king, wherever your king is. And if your king is in the center, yes, you definitely want to try and break open the center and go after that king if it's possible. So we have bishop developing and attacking my queen. So that's the best move, because now I have to waste time swinging my queen over here to help cover this pawn. And development of this knight. So not the best move here. This is an inaccuracy. It would have been better, it looks like, maybe to play a5 according to the computer. So let's take a look. a5, gain space. Then what? I should capture, and then looks like b4, which they can't capture here because then I'll pick off the rook. So a4 is best, gaining more space here. And now, once again, I should play this f4 move, it looks like. Or knight to f3 immediately is another option. Okay, back to the game. Knight to e7 was played. We break the pawns apart in front of the king, but my opponent ignores that. Doubling up, creating a rook-queen battery, but it's defended by rook and king, so I'm not worried about that. It looks like a5 would have been better. All right. Well, now I'm able to jump my queen up here with check. King moves. We attack, breaking up the pawn cover. The knight recaptures, which is best. So if you're going to get better at chess, you have to try and find the best moves in the position. You won't always be able to do that, but at least try and find good ones. This does, and moves that do more than one thing. So not only did this recapture the pawn and help defend the king, it also attacks the queen. So now I'm going to drop back, though, and pin this knight to the king. Now the knight can't move because the king is behind the knight here. So another tactic, the tactic of the pin. It's illegal to move this piece. It's pinned to the king. All right, so here, a big inaccuracy. I would say this is a blunder move here. I don't know why it just says it's an inaccuracy. Because, for one, maybe he was thinking that, I don't know what he was thinking here. I think it was just a blunder. And that's something you're going to have to work on if you want to get better at chess, is reducing the amount of blunders in your games. Before you make a move, ask yourself, well, once I make this move, what is my opponent going to do in response? Well, the obvious answer is to just capture here. And then if they recapture, I would capture and just come out ahead in material. So you don't want to deal with stuff like that. You don't want to give up material like that. And he's already behind in material, so it's better if we go back here. I'm up by 2 pawns. 2 pawns. So when you're ahead in material, you want to trade off pieces. That way I can use my extra 2 pawns to win and promote them in the end. Now, if you're behind, you want to trade off all the pawns on the board that you can. And, hopefully getting rid of the pawns and keeping the pieces on the board will let you put up a harder fight against the opponent. So, what should be played here? It looks like g5 would have been best. Just pushing pawns here, trying to storm forward. But after this capture, he does, not capture again, but he probably should have at least moved the rook, because now, as I mentioned, I'm ahead in material. I can just start trading off more material. That's why that was the best move, is because the more pieces I get rid of, not pawns, but pieces, the less he has to defend himself with. So I just develop another knight here, trying to trade off more material by jumping forward here and attacking. So pawn pushes forward and I grab a pawn, and I'm also forking 2 pieces, and this one is pinned so it can't capture me. So the rook protects, but instead I go after the bishop. And now we have, see here, he should have just captured. It would have been best to just capture that piece, because now this knight can retreat and I just got a free piece out of that. He did get a pawn, but and here I don't know why he didn't just capture more. I think maybe at this point he's giving up. So after another capture of a pawn, and once again he should have captured that knight, but now the knight's able to retreat with an attack. So here I play an interesting little move. I attack the king. We have a fork. I'm forking the rook and the king. He can grab the knight, but I get the more valuable rook. And at this point, the game is pretty much over. So he just runs forward. I start picking off pieces, but then we have checkmate here. So how to get better at chess? Well, play often, play regularly, study tactics every day if you can. And then you can dig deeper into strategy, end game strategy, middle game strategy, if you want to get a deeper understanding of how to play chess and how to get better. But especially if you're a beginner starting out, just study as much as you can on tactics, watch videos, do puzzles and problems regularly, until you start recognizing the tactical patterns, and then you can use those in your own games. And also you should play regularly. Play all kinds of games. You can play blitz games to get a lot of games in a short period of time, but I would also recommend playing slower games so you can have time to think and concentrate, and make less mistakes and blunders. And just remember, if you can't go after the king, but you get ahead in material, then just start trading pieces off. And then as you trade pieces down, that's less that your opponent has to defend themselves with in the end. And you can try and promote one of your pawns. And then if you're behind in material and you're defending, try to trade off as many pawns as you can while keeping your pieces, and avoiding trades of pieces, but get rid of those pawns. That way they cannot be turned in. Your opponent can't turn his extra pawns into a queen at the end. And also, if you really want to get better at chess, just remember whatever rules that you read or general guidelines, remember that they are general guidelines, and there's always exceptions to the rules, or there usually is. I won't say always, because that's pretty definite. All right, well, I hope this helped you a little bit to get better at chess. Watch some more of these videos in the future, and I'll give you more examples of what to do and what not to do. So feel free to leave comments at any time. Like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and have a super chess day.